Well, good afternoon, everybody. So here are the burning questions. What is the ADC and why is it important? How will I know when the application is open? How do I get access to it? And what kind of information is required? So these are the kinds of things that I hope to cover with you today. The ADC, anybody know what ADC means, stands for? Yes, sir?
Application, designation, and certification.
That's right, application, designation, and certification. Another one of those acronyms that we use all the time, but it is an important feature. Really nothing can happen until that is done. Application, designation, and certification. Very important about who gets access to what. So how will I know when the application is open? Somebody answer that question for me. Somebody's going to send you a listserv message. Shelly Ramos this morning was talking about getting on the listserv message. We'll send you a note letting you know. And Grant's division will send you a note letting you know the application's available. So how do I get access to the Perkins application? We're going to show you that in just a minute. You're going to get two looks at that because I'm going to show you some places to go if you don't know already. And then when Ron comes and talks to you about the program effectiveness report a little bit later on, you'll see it again. So we'll get two chances to look at where to go to get access. And finally, what kinds of information is required to complete the Perkins application? Somebody want to answer that question? So what do you have to know to answer the Perkins application? Just generally, anything. Everything. You need to know everything. The shoe size of all your students. Yes, sir?
Well, one of the things you need to know is whether you're going to be an independent or you're going to join an SSA.
Right.
You're going to have to select that.
Yeah, that's an important message. Okay, so essentially, we're going to take a look at that. You'll be asked questions about what your plans are. You'll be asked questions about what your plans are for the coming year for the grant. And you're going to be asked, how are you going to meet the grant requirements? And we'll talk about what those 9 grant requirements are, including budget information. And Celeste Padilla from our grants division is going to talk about more about the budget. So those are important things that you'll need to know to be able to complete your Perkins application. Now here's a really good question. Should you simply copy and paste from last year's application without reviewing the information? No, please don't do that. Actually, what I hope to do today is show you places in the application where you have a chance to reflect on and look at and have an understanding of what it is you're trying to do with your CTE program, really. Now, this is the Perkins part of it, and it's funding for that. And the larger part of your funding is state funding, but still, this is good information. This is a good way to look at. You're making this application, and you're looking at the reasons why you have a CTE program, what it's supposed to do. So here's a chance for you to reflect on that and look and see what kind of progress you've made, what areas you need to work on, and so on. So let's go ahead here. So here's how you get access to the Perkins application. It's on this TEAS, TEA Secure Applications Information, right there. And you go to, can you read that? TEAS, that's the link there, or the place that you click on. And you're going to ask for request access request access form. And if you're not already have that, you should. One thing you should know when you do that is you're going to click on accountability and request access form. You need to complete this form. It's got to be printed, it's got to be signed, and it's got to be submitted to your superintendent for approval. So it's got to have the superintendent's signature. This completed form will need to be either faxed or mailed, and it's got to be sent in. So it's got to be printed and signed. So more, you'll notice that there's also a TEAS FAQ available on this page for your convenience, right here. You also may log into TEAS directly from this page if you want to. You can also make a shortcut since this is an application that you'll use quite a bit. There are other things in there besides the Perkins application. And there's the TEAS login. That's where you start. Okay, some more information about that. This is the Add Modify button. It's the upper right-hand corner of your TEAS application list. So you'll go there, and you'll be asked to be added to be able to have access to the Perkins application. And you'll look for the role description. This is important for you. So whether you're acquiring a new TEAS account or modifying an existing TEAS account, you'll need to be sure you have the proper role. If you're unsure about the role, you can click on it and get a description of it. So here's some interesting information. Here's the list of eGrant roles. Please note the differences and similarities between them. I know it's a little bit hard to read. Grantee official, that very top left one, can do everything. Usually that's the superintendent or his designee, such as the CTE director. The grantee manager, which is the next one down, can do almost everything except submit the application. So what happens, sometimes we get calls and it's like, I can't submit my application. I can get into the system, I can see it, it's grayed out, I can't type in it. Why not? It's because you don't have the right access. The person doesn't have the right access. So be sure that you have the right access and you'll save yourself some trouble there. Also, you need to have the right kind of internet browser. It needs to be Internet Explorer. So those are some issues that come up. So be aware of those different roles and which ones you're going to assume. How will I know when it opens? You're going to be a member of the CTE listserv bulletin. Raise your hand if you're on the CTE listserv bulletin. Look at that. That's good. That's good. You're getting all the up-to-date information as soon as we can get it out to you. And we're very conscientious about getting you that information, about changes, about courses that have been added to Project Gateway, or anything else that we think would be of the slightest interest to you that would make your lives and jobs better and easier. So you tell us your email address and get signed up. There are others that are interesting too. I went a little crazy signing up for TEA listservs, and so I get everything. So I'm having to cut back, you know? It's a lot of stuff to read through, and I get a lot of information about stuff. It's like, do I really need that? So be careful about that. You can get overloaded. So there's that. And there we are, career and technical education. That's the one you're going to pick. All right, so let's talk about the application itself. So this is the bulk of my presentation to you today. So what I want to do is take you through the sample applications available in the grants for you to look at. And I'm not going to take you line by line, but what I'm going to do is try and highlight some of the key parts and sort of point out to you what it is you should be looking for and what the decision points are and how it might help you just to kind of be familiar with the different parts here. So excuse me while I go to the sample that I have here. We get out of this. Okay, this is the Certify and Submit Responsible Party page. Big deal. Be sure that you have this completed. Got to have the right information. Nothing happens if this isn't done. Very important part. So we have that. You see the information you're certifying, and you're really saying this is a legally binding agreement. So the agency wants to know who is responsible for getting this money and making sure that the grant requirements are being met. And if you're that person, you sign there, then it's your responsibility. So we want somebody to be responsible at the school district, usually the superintendent, but it could be you as well. So here's the next part. Okay, here's where you're going to, can you see that it says Part 1, Career Clusters Offered? Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Select at least 3. You know, this is one of the requirements to, and all these things are related to eligibility. You're establishing your eligibility to apply for a Perkins Grant and what your status is. So you have to have career clusters offered. Select at least 3. They're all listed there. We even have on the right-hand side, we even have a definition of what those areas are. So you see them there. All 16 of the career clusters are there. And then you have programs of study. See those. See the characteristics of them. Here are the characteristics of programs of study. If you wanted to know, if you wanted to be able to share what it is that programs of study are and what their characteristics are, here's information that can help you. Here they are defined and what they should be and what they should contain. The part that's going to be of interest to you is going to be the narrative that's called for here. Describe how students will be provided with strong experience in and understanding of all aspects of an industry. So you need to have an answer there. What is it that you're going to do in your CTE program that's going to be responsive to that narrative? Describe how the district will encourage career and technical education students at the secondary level to enroll in rigorous and challenging courses. So what are you going to say about that? What are you going to say about that? Describe how the district will ensure that CTE students are taught to the same challenging academic standards. Describe how one program study, only one program study meets the elements found in the Carl D. Perkins Act. So those 9 uses. Okay? Integration plan. How are you going to work in that? And then here's methods of integration. So one of the things that you're supposed to be doing in your Perkins work, in your CTE program, according to Perkins, is have an integration. That is, you're to integrate the core academics and the technical skill parts together. You can do that by math and science courses that are CTE for credit, or you can do it by having dual, professional development for both of those where teachers work cross-discipline. You can do it a lot of different ways. But you're supposed to have integration. We're teaching technical skills in an academic setting. That's important. Here's something about non-traditional. We've talked about this quite a bit. It is a point of emphasis this year. We're looking at it. We're providing training for our ESC specialists on how to identify and work with districts and helping them promote non-traditional. One of the issues is that sometimes some people don't think that certain students should be in certain fields because it doesn't match their gender, for example. We want to avoid that, and the Perkins calls for us to do that. And so here's a question: how are you going to work with that? So important information. Here's another question about special populations. There's a list of 7 or 8 different categories of students who fit into the special populations category. English language learners, low socioeconomic, special education students. Some people think special populations is only special ed. That's not true. There's a whole different range of people that we need to be accounted for. And the reason why they need to be accounted for is that there is a fear that they will be left out. There's a fear is probably too strong a word. There is a concern on the part of the government when they made this law, and this is the law that governs the grant, that there would be some exclusion and we would not be inclusive. So they've made that provision. How are you going to be sure that special populations have success in your CTE program? Important questions for you to consider. All right. So here's a chance for you to provide narrative, for you to think about what it is your programs of study and your CTE program are going to do in these areas. So here's a chance for you to have conversation with your teachers, your administrators, your superintendent, your advisory committees, whoever you'd like to try and, here's what I'd like to do. Here's your chance, by the way, if you're a new CTE director, here's your chance to put your stamp on things and perhaps do things a little bit different and take it in a new direction than it has been before. Program description. You know that next door are the counselors. We have a large role for counseling and guidance. What are you going to do? What elements are you going to check here? What narrative are you going to provide that answers the question, how career guidance and academic counseling will be provided? So you need to work with other people. It's not simply enough to make the master schedule and hire the teachers. You've got to think about these other sort of extras, but they're not really extras, they're essentials, that students get the right kind of guidance so they know what their career pathways can be, their career outcomes can be. Professional development, that's part 8. What's the nature of it? Are you going to provide the kind of professional development that's described here? By the way, these descriptions are pretty good. If you wanted to, find some language that talked about what professional development is supposed to be, you can see it here. Make sure that your teachers are current with all parts of the industry. That'd be a nice thing, wouldn't it? Make sure that your teachers are using the latest information and that they're up to date, and that you can train teachers to teach effectively. So, how's professional development going to work? Job embedded, long-term kind of things, perhaps. I'll be better than others. All right, here's parts 9, 10, and 11. And by the way, these are all related to Perkins required uses. Developing, improving, or expanding the use of technology. Look at the checklists here. Look at the next one, part 10, partnerships. Look at the different partnerships that you may choose from, and you should have some of all of these. Parents, students, academic teachers, community partners, faculty, certainly want to involve your CTE teachers. And it says, describe how the above groups are involved in the plan, in the program. Okay. Last thing, part 11, probably one of your big issues is going to be, how do I retain and keep qualified people? So here's some questions where you're going to talk about those efforts. And then let's go to the last part here. So I've been given the signal. Here's accountability information. This is all, you'll see this, and it's all interesting and worthwhile. But these are the required, these things here that are about barriers and strategies, about gender-specific bias, cultural, linguistic, or economic diversity. All those things are sort of generic parts of the application that you have to respond to because it's a federal grant program. So they're important, but let's look at some other things real quickly. All right, here's the budget. And this is where my colleague, Celeste Padilla, is going to start talking in just a minute. Required use of funds. This is your guiding list. This is what you should be doing with Perkins funds to support these class object codes and descriptions. She's going to give you some of the rules about how you can spend that money. Program area, the TEA staff, the CTE staff led by Diane Salazar, and the others of us, John and Ron and I, we help make the program area decisions, but what you can spend money on and how it can be spent and how it's to be allocated is going to be a budget issue in terms of reporting, how you fill out the form. So I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you for your time. Question? Yes?
What does it do? What does the application do?
The application is due August 31st, 2016. See how that came right off the top of rolled right off my tongue there. What else? Yes, sir.
When you're talking about the roles, one of the things that people that are quickly trying to gain their E-grants roles, like a superintendent,
Yes.
those aren't listed in roles of authority. They're listed alphabetically. And I've had it happen more than once. They'll click that first role because they think that's the most powerful one.
That's not the case.
It's not the case.
You should look more closely at what the role descriptions are in terms of, okay, good point.
It's hard to go back and correct that once.
Yeah, and I think
it's not impossible. It's doable, but it's.
So be careful as you're choosing the role that you wish to have.